Hey brothers, this is Jessa with Masonic Improvement. Today I want to talk to you about something I've written about before, but it's been a while since we talked about it, and that is the West Gate. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with this term, because I wasn't the first time I heard about it, the West Gate is, there's not really a great definition for it, but to me it alludes to, or it's referring to the process and ultimate entry of a new Mason into the fraternity. So by the process, I'm talking about the petitioning process, the investigation process, and the amendments, leading up to the time he comes in and receives his first degree. And the West Gate physically is referring to, that first door he passes into when he first comes into the lodge during his degree. So that's really what that's talking about. So the West Gate is basically that gateway through which non-members become members. And this is kind of one of those topics where people seem to be really divided on, but the majority of Masons seem to feel as though there is a membership problem, which I agree with, but not the same kind of problem that they are referring to. The membership problem that the majority of Masons seem to think we have is that we don't have enough brothers in the fraternity. But I feel the opposite way. I feel as though we have too many brothers in the fraternity. And I know for a lot of people that sounds like the most absurd thing that you could say, but my mentality is quality over quantity. And we have a lot of Masons right now, and we even had more in the past, but were they all the highest quality men they could be? And you can't say they were, because every one of you can think of at least a handful of Masons that should never have joined the fraternity or never should have been allowed to have joined the fraternity. And you can think of several other Masons that they were allowed to join mainly because they could pay the entry fee. They didn't have that's this finger, not the middle finger. They could pay the entry fee. They didn't have a criminal record, and they were men. Oh, and they claimed to have a faith in deity, and that's really it. And after they got in, they may have gone through all the degrees, they may not have, but after they got in, you could see no progress towards their character, meaning that they didn't apply any of the lessons of the fraternity. They have not really worked on becoming better men. So they may have been good men or even okay men, but they never worked on becoming better men. And the question is, really, should they have been allowed in the fraternity? Because you're allowing all these people to join. You're giving away the secrets of the fraternity. And I know some people say there are no secrets, but I made a whole other video about that. But you're cheapening the fraternity by giving it to more people. And so really we need to be far more selective in who we allow to join. And I could talk a whole video on the cheapening of fraternity, which is probably a good idea, which I need to do pretty soon. But it's you can't have quality and quantity at the same time. I'm sorry. If you look at like mass production, you can have a company that produces a lot of toys cheaply, or they can produce a few toys, relatively speaking, fewer toys of much higher quality. But you can't churn out a ton of high quality stuff with a large quantity. Generally, the larger the quantity, the faster you're doing it, the lower the quality is going to be. And you see that in lodges all the time, especially especially during the golden era, when they were doing degrees all the time. And you see men coming in, and they're just, as fast as they can put them in through the degrees, they're joining. And you had a severe lack in quality. Not to say that they were all low quality men, but you let a lot of people through the cracks. And now that fraternity is paying for this, especially in those lodges and jurisdictions where these men were allowed to or weren't not I shouldn't say allowed, but where these men stuck with the fraternity and worked into leadership positions. And to be clear, I'm definitely not suggesting that we have that problem at the Grand Lodge level here in Texas, but I do know there are some jurisdictions where if you look at their behavior in the last few years, you could probably deduce that maybe that this is the case. And I would certainly suggest, and I know this for a fact, that this is a problem at lodge level across the state. Not necessarily every lodge, but there's lots of lodges where this is an issue. And so you have this epidemic where the west gate in most lodges is wide open. Hell, it's probably not even on the hinges at many at many lodges. It's long since fell off the hinges and it's been propped up against the wall and forgotten all about, and it's just open entry. And just to give an example, I've sat in lodges before where visitors came in interested in joining the fraternity, didn't know a soul in the building, and before they left, they had a petition and they had all the signatures they needed. And if you're telling me that that is okay, then you and I disagree on some fundamental level about how easily people should be allowed to join our fraternity. Now, as for some suggestions, if you're open to that, I know Fort Worth Masonic Lodge has this policy and is something that we've toyed with at my lodge, and I think it's very effective. And that is that if you want to petition the lodge, you have to basically you have to attend that lodge for at least 6 months. And that's not saying you're obviously not going to go and sit in the lodge meeting, but if there's a lodge event, you show up, you eat dinner with the brethren, you get to know everybody, my dogs. And after that 6 months, if the brothers feel good about you joining their lodge, then you get a petition, and the whole investigation process begins and everything. And if at any point one of those brothers feel as though maybe this got in a good fit, or maybe we need more time to get to know that guy, then those steps are taken. 6 months is the minimum. And at the end of those 6 months, if a lot of brothers, just don't feel comfortable giving that guy a petition, then, for whatever reason, then he doesn't get a petition. And it may be something, as simple as, we don't feel as though this is the lodge for you, or it may be we don't feel as though you're a good fit for Freemasonry. And you don't have to give out those petitions. You're not obligated to give those out. If you don't feel comfortable giving those to a man, then don't. Guard them carefully. And as long as we're talking about the investigation process, it is strongly encouraged that you actually visit that man at his house. And a lot of people aren't really comfortable with that. But if you're not comfortable going to this guy's house, why would you feel comfortable letting him into your lodge? And the best policy, is just to go separately. Visit them at the lodge separately at different times. That way you are getting a glimpse into this person's life at different times. Anyone could clean up their house, one time just to impress somebody. But if you got 3 different guys come into your house, 3 different days, you can tell a lot more. It's not as easy to keep up that facade. And this gives you a great opportunity, meet the wife, meet the kids, pet the dog. Is this guy, I hate to say it, is he a slob? Does he take care of his yard? And these are all small things, but if the guy's a filthy slob and he didn't take care of anything, and once you meet the wife, if she doesn't like the idea of him joining the lodge, there's all kinds of red flags that could come up. And these are things you just don't see if the 3 people on the investigation committee meet the guy at lodge and sit down with him for 10 minutes and then sign him off. And that is the norm. Unfortunately, that's what we do. And so it's frustrating. And we have it's not just a Freemason problem. It's a human condition, I guess. And that is, we default to whatever the basic standard is. And if you can get by, the basic standard is you have to have an investigation committee. And if you can get by just meeting, at lodge around the table, then most people will do that. If you can get by without going to their house, most people will do that. If you can get by without saying, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable giving you a petition, then most people will do that. But just because that is the easiest route to take doesn't mean it's the correct route. And one last thing. And so I said earlier that I feel as though we have too many members. And that is a result, of the golden age, air quotes there. But I don't feel as though we're in some kind of Masonic crisis. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of members. It's going to happen no matter what you do. It's just going to happen. But how we react to that and how we anticipate that as a fraternity is going to determine how well we come out on top at the end of this. This gives us, this huge influx of members we had was abnormal, and we're returning back to a norm, and we have to accept that. Now, as lodges, if we do not prepare for lodges with less members, then yes, we're going to close a lot of doors, and we're going to close a lot of doors regardless. But as a lodge, if you do not prepare for finding a way to operate with less members, then you're going to close your doors. And I'm talking from an officer standpoint, having enough people to fill the chairs. I'm talking from a financial standpoint, meaning, are your dues going to be high enough where when you lose a lot of members, you can still function? Now, the good news is that younger generations of men are interested in the fraternity. And I've discussed this before, but it's on us to provide that experience that they expect, or else they're going to be gone. And you can say whatever you want about the millennials, you love them or hate them, but Freemasonry already missed one generation of men, and it hurt us dearly. And if we lose this generation, it's gonna be much worse. Dire. And this isn't a doom and gloom kind of thing. Like I said, I'm coming from this viewpoint that we already have too many members, and that's going to shrink. But those few good and golden men that we should have got from that generation that we missed, and those leaders that we need from this millennial generation that could easily pass us by, are going to make the difference between a good future and a more difficult one. At least that's just how I feel. And it's not trying to be doom or gloom, but we did miss out on some opportunities in the past. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that, at least for now. If you haven't checked out my Facebook page, I will put a link below. Please go ahead and click it and hit like so you can keep up with my Facebook content. Things have been slow due to real life things going on, but I do tend to post more on Facebook than I do on YouTube. I also have a blog, which I will probably embed this video in a related post, but I have a blog if you have any desire to check that out. Quite a bit of content on there, and of course you are welcome to print any of that out and present that to your lodge if you want to. Also, I have a Patreon account now, which I would very much appreciate if you could check that out sometime. And the purpose of that was not for my financial gain so much as it is for funding this project. There are a lot of things that I would like to be able to do with it that ultimately require some form of investment. And while I am willing to do that myself, any funding that you may feel the need to throw my way will definitely help me to do that more quickly. One last thing that I almost forgot. I am currently working on adding on to my Masonic library. So if you would, in the comments, please just share with me the best Masonic book that you've ever read. Or if you had to just downsize your Masonic library to one book, what book would you keep in your library? Anyhow, I think that covers all I had to say. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for watching.